What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Detroit Lions quarterback Matthew Stafford and whether or not he will be part of the Lions' future. So let's get it started.
You know, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, you know, guys don't know DoseOfDion. He put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
Welcome, everybody, to another video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, this should be a pretty fun video because we got a lot to talk about, but I think it's going to be pretty entertaining to talk about the scenarios here. But before we get into that, first off, his head is a little broken. Okay, I know. If you guys didn't know, I think it was the Falcons game when we won. We had that game winner. He fell. He was super excited. Now he's looking sideways. It's okay, though. Like, he's still chilling. He's just looking like he's posing. You know how you go to school, take your picture. Tilt your head down, chin up. Short his back, you know, hey, well, get your foot in the right spot. Like, okay, like, hold up, this does not look right. Then you come out looking like this. That's awful. What are we talking about? But before we get in this video, if you guys could comment some, like, you know, cake emojis or anything like that to celebrate a happy birthday. Could you guys do that? Because it is T's or DoseOfDad's birthday today. So when he goes through, you know, the comment section, it'd be cool if he could see all that, you know. So if you guys could just spam that in the comment, like right now, just right now, while you're watching this, boom, comment some kind of emoji just to let him know happy birthday. But let's get into today's video. Okay, let's talk about today's video. Let's talk about this guy. All right, number 9, wearing the Honolulu blue and silver because that sounds cool. Let's talk about Matthew Stafford a little bit and what his future could look like with the Detroit Lions. So we got to hear from Sheila Ford Hamp, Darrell Bevell, and Stafford himself about his future. They were all asked about Stafford's future, and there was no definitive answer from anybody. Of course, it's not going to be. When you're 4-7, you have an interim head coach. No one's going to give a definitive answer because we don't know. I mean, Sheila Ford Hamp, what she said is, yeah, she praised him, but then she said the next head coach will make that decision. Darrell Bevell praised him, but he didn't say anything about his future because, well, he doesn't know what his future is. You can't say, well, here's Stafford's future, even though I don't know my future. And Stafford, he didn't say, yeah, I'd want to be here, or no, I don't want to be here. We didn't really get anything from that. So now we need to draw up some scenarios of what Matthew Stafford's future could look like. And I came up with some factors, the biggest factors, in my opinion, that will decide Matthew Stafford's future, all right? And here is the first one that we have to start off with, because all of this stuff that we're about to talk about is great, but doesn't really matter if you can't figure this part of it out. Okay, and that is the salary cap situation. All right, the money. It's all about the money, right? I mean, that's where it starts. The reason it starts there is because Stafford's getting that bling. How can you move Stafford with all that bling that he's supposed to get? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for saying bling. But seriously, let's talk about it. So could the Detroit Lions just, you know, eat the money and say, okay, you know what? We're just going to kind of cut it loose here and we'll cut our losses and we'll figure it out. Honestly, not really, because if you're going to do that, if you're moving on Matthew Stafford, you're probably looking to rebuild, retool, you know, you're going to have to make a lot of changes. You're looking at a new head coach, a new GM. If you're doing that, then you would have to be taking on tons of money. And the Lions, whoever those next guys are, aren't going to want to take on this much money. So for 2021, it's now $33 million. That's salary and the bonuses. For 2022, it's now $26 million. Those are the 2 years on his deal. That is a lot of money. That's $59 million if you just said, you know, we'll just eat the money and we'll figure it out. $59 million? Realistically, you can't really do that if you're going to try to, you know, rebuild a team because that's just too much money to take on. For a new head coach GM, heck, man, hey, we're already kind of, you know, we have to make this thing happen. We need some success early. Now we got to take all this on. Like, oh, man, this is a lot of money. The most logical option if you wanted to move Matthew Stafford would be trading him. Now, trading him, you know, would save you some money. You still have to eat somebody. It would save you some money. For 2021, it'd be $20 million. For 2022, $23 million. Still pretty good amount of money. If you do it before June 1st, it's $19 million for 2021. So still some money, but definitely much less than what it would be just, hey, we're just going to cut ties here. But the problem is now you have to find a trade partner, all right? Because, you know, you can't trade with yourself. You got to figure out, okay, what team is going to take this on. And if you look at the draft order, a team inside the top 10 likely won't trade for Matthew Stafford. I don't see it because teams in the top 10, one, they're either not that good. And because they're not that good, they're looking for a quarterback. And their quarterback, they're probably going to draft in the top 10. So you're probably not going to get a team to say, yeah, you know, we'll give up some picks so we can have Matthew Stafford. Because they probably would rather just take their quarterback. They'd rather have it cheaper that way. And also, potentially, they may see their future in that. Doesn't mean it will work out because he's not proven. But they could see their future there and they could say to themselves, yeah, this is our future. We don't want to have a quarterback that's already 32 years old. Okay, it makes sense. So it's going to be very difficult to do that with a top team. So I've seen destinations, the Jaguars, the Jets. It's probably not, why would the Jets, like literally Jets, look, that wouldn't make any sense for you guys to trade for Matthew Stafford. You're going to draft Trevor Lawrence. Just take Trevor Lawrence then, okay? So now you're talking about what teams would be willing. Well, it's those middle of the pack teams. It's those middle of the pack teams that look at themselves and say, okay, we're a good team. We just need a better quarterback. Those teams have the best chance of trading for Stafford. Well, what teams are those? The first one would be a team like the Colts. Maybe Phillip Rivers retires. The Colts are a good team. And the Colts would say, you know what, we're going to keep this playoff run alive. Rivers, you retired. Okay, but we're going to keep this run alive. Again, that's assuming he does. Let's go get Stafford. All right, there you go. How about the Steelers? Kind of same thing. Maybe Big Ben retires. Steelers are obviously a really good team. If Big Ben retired, maybe you look at it and say, okay, we want to keep this thing rolling. We don't want to go into, the next generation yet. We want to keep rolling with what's here, and we want to see what can happen. We'll just bring in another good quarterback. How about a team like the Patriots? It would make sense, right? The Patriots, if Bob Quinn was still here, it would make a lot more sense. But a team like the Patriots, right? I don't know if they think they're that close. I mean, they can run the ball, but I don't know if they think they're that close. Bill Belichick, he may. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do there. You got the Cleveland Browns. I don't think they're going to move Baker. They're doing well, but I don't think they'll move Baker. San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers would probably have to move Jimmy G, so someone had to be willing to take Jimmy G. Maybe that's a three-way trade. You got a team like the Giants. I don't think the Giants would think they're that close. They're probably they may just take a quarterback, or they'll rock with Daniel Jones. And then finally, you got a team like the Cowboys, who are going to get Dak back. Are they going to pay Dak? Who knows? But, that may not happen either. So you can see it's going to be very difficult to make it happen. So even if the scenario works out where, hey, you know what? We want to move Stafford. Let's do it. How are you going to do it? Because it's going to be very difficult. But let's say hypothetically they can do it. They figure out a way to do it. What factors will decide whether or not Matthew Stafford could be here? Because obviously, I want Matthew Stafford here. He's my favorite player. I think he's great. I would love to have Matthew Stafford here. But what factors come into play here on whether or not he could be here? Okay, what scenarios are drawn up? Well, the first factor is this. I think it's the biggest one, are the last 5 games. The last 5 games are going to be very important to a lot of different people. Okay, it's going to be very important. First off, Darrell Bevell gets an opportunity as an interview for 5 games to prove himself. If Darrell Bevell can go out there and win, heck, maybe, what if he won 3 of these last 5 games? If he wins 3 of the last 5, I believe he will be our head coach next season. Because when you look at our 5 games, they're basically all playoff teams. Our 2 easiest games are divisional opponents that we haven't beat. So you have to beat 3 of the 5 basically playoff teams, maybe 2, but I think it's probably going to be 3 now that I'm thinking about it. So that's what you're going to have to pull off. So if he could do that and he could save his job, awesome. Now, what does that mean for Matthew Stafford? To me, it would make it more willing that Matthew Stafford would be like, okay, I'll go through this. Because one question that Matthew Stafford was asked was, would you be willing to go through what could be another rebuild? Another head coach, another GM, another restart? I'm not going to limit myself to anything. I'll answer that probably better for you after the season. There's too much work for me to be done at the moment. If I'm worried about all that kind of other stuff, I'm not worried about trying to beat the Bears on Sunday. And then he explains how that's not fair to his teammates. So he's not really looking into the future right now. He's trying to focus on his last 5 games, even though he probably is thinking about the future. He's looking at these last 5 games. So what if Darrell Bevell is able to say and have a really good finish to his 5 games? He looks good, and the line's like, you know what? We're going to give you a shot. You're going to be our head coach next season. I think that means it's more likely that Stafford will be willing to stay here through it. Because really also comes down to what Matthew Stafford wants, right? We already know you can't keep a guy that doesn't want to be here. So I think that Matthew Stafford would love to finish his career in Detroit. I really think he does. But I also think he's got to look out for himself and realize that, okay, am I really willing to go through another rebuild here? Another retool, another head coach, another GM? Where we've done this many times and it's never resulted in anything. It's never resulted in a playoff game. I mean, look at this. This is what I saw today, and it's kind of crazy to think about. Let's say Matthew Stafford was on the team next season. It'd be his 4th head coach. Actually, it'd be technically his 5th head coach if you count Darrell Bevell as the interim. 5 head coaches, 3rd GM, and 7th quarterback coach. What? He has not been there long enough for that to be numbers. Those are stats. That's insane. So does Stafford want to go through this again? At 32 years old, he's dealing with some injuries. Does he want to go through this again? Or would he rather say, you know what? I kind of just want to go see if I can go win something. I want to at least try to go in a playoff game. I would rather go elsewhere. Well, now the team has to try to find that trade partner and make that happen. And what if the team comes back and says, well, we only can find something with, this team. Well, I don't want to go there because they're bad. I don't want to go to the Jaguars. So now Matthew Stafford's thinking, well, do I want to go through this and play for this team and try to, push through this again? Or because my injury stuff, I'd rather just retire a Detroit Lion. Now that all goes into it. So that's why I think it's super important that these last 5 games, how they go, because Darrell Bevell could actually be a very big influence on what Matthew Stafford decides to do. Now, Darrell Bevell may earn the job and say, you know what, I want to restart too. It's more likely that Darrell Bevell, if he kept the job, would be willing to keep what he has going on here, right? I think he's more likely to do that and then just say, okay, we'll draft a developmental quarterback. Now, let's say Darrell Bevell does earn the job. Here's where things get kind of wild. Because Darrell Bevell does keep the job. Let's say he does well in his last 5 games. Now you're looking for a GM. Say you hire a GM. You want to hire a GM. You don't want to have him do the GM as well. Now you have to hire a GM that lines up with the same views that Daryl Bevell already has. So now Bevell has to be involved in those, because usually you hire the GM, then he gets his head coach. But if he earns that job, you have no general manager. So now you're going to hire a general manager, and he has to have those same ideas, because you can't have a guy in Daryl Bevell. Let's just say hypothetically he does well, and he's like, no, I don't want to blow this up. I just want to tweak some things. I'm keeping Stafford, and we can see what we can do with this team. But you can't then hire a GM that says, well, I want to blow it up. This team's a mess. We got to restart. You can't do that, right? Because now there's going to be an argument on, well, who's getting the power here? Shouldn't Daryl Bevell get the power if he made this team, put this team back on track? If, he gave them some life again instead of a general manager that just stepped in the building? But now the GM technically has the power to fire the head coach. So now there's going to be those power issues. So that's why this stuff gets crazy depending on how these last 5 games go. Now, let's say, for example, we talked about the good. What if it goes bad? What do the last 5 games go as expected? The Lions maybe lose out. Maybe they only get a game. They don't do very well. They get a high draft pick. Now what happens? Well, if the Lions don't do very well, you're not going to see Daryl Bevell back. So now you're looking for a new GM who's ultimately going to probably hire his new head coach, assuming that you go get both of those. Working on who is actually coming in here. Who is stepping into that job? What GM is coming in? Okay, because if Daryl Bevell doesn't work out and you hire the next general manager, what general manager are you hiring? Are you hiring a guy like we talked about, Chris Spielman? Are you going with that kind of move? Because I believe a guy like Chris Spielman, I haven't looked at all the GMs, we'll continue to do it. But if, I hired a guy like that maybe will be willing to keep Matthew Stafford. He doesn't think this roster is terrible. He just thinks that maybe they need a different voice. Maybe Matthew Stafford, again, is willing to go through it again, because it does matter on what Matthew Stafford wants to do. Now he may be willing to go through it again, and the Lions will have to take on that money and all that stuff, because if he doesn't want to go through it, you can't just keep him here. You can't just be like, well, no, we're not getting rid of you. That'll be a terrible, awful situation. He want to play here. That you can't do that, right? You can't put him through that, and then you're just taking on too much money. So you don't want to do that. Get a GM that comes in. If you bring in a general manager that wants to rebuild, I think they actually may have somewhat of an advantage here, because they may say, okay, let's just say they find a way to move Matthew Stafford. Well, hold up, we're starting a rookie quarterback. You can't expect immediate success. He's got time to build. He's got time to grow. We're trying to do big things here. So now that may actually hold off some of the instant pressure of, okay, you got to be good right away because you got Matthew Stafford, right? That could be some of the pressure let off from the next guys if they decide to do that. So there's actually a chance that, hey, the next guys that come in probably going to want to move on from Matthew Stafford, because they want to have that opportunity to do their own thing, maybe take a little bit of pressure off of moving Stafford, because when we scored 0 against Carolina, I was like, hold up, you didn't score? Like Matthew Stafford, we have not scored with Matthew Stafford since 2009. Like, that's a big problem. Clearly there's a problem there, and it can't be the quarterback because we don't do that. How did this just happen? Right? That looks really, really bad. But you bring in a rookie quarterback. Now, I don't think it's great to just throw a rookie quarterback out there, because if you do go to full rebuild, you don't have a lot of money, so you're going to have kind of a mess going on here, and you start a rookie quarterback, he's going to be in the same spot that Matthew Stafford was. I'm on a terrible team, and we have to put him in because we don't have a vet above him. It really is going to come down to how these last 5 games go. I think these last 5 games are going to tell a lot, because now if they don't do well, you're kind of in the hands of, okay, well, what are the next guys going to do? What do the next guys want to do, whoever you bring in and hire? And then at that point, even if they want to move Stafford, now they got to try to figure out how to move Stafford, right? Because if Stafford is like, I don't want to do this again, then now you got to figure out, okay, well, how do I move him? Are we going to have to literally just eat the money? Are we going to get like no return for him because no one's willing to give up a lot of picks? What kind of situation are those guys in now that have to move him? Because it can be very difficult to go elsewhere with it. And I think it is great to have a guy develop behind a vet. We see the Packers do it. They had success. They're doing it again. We see the Saints kind of doing that right now. I think it's great to do that. I think it's great to have that, because then when you put him in there, it's not like, oh my gosh, I have no help here. I got no veteran quarterback. My team's not good. Now it's a mess. At least if he's behind somebody, and even if you're not the best team, you're not completely awful, and he's had some experience behind him. He's got to learn a few things. He's not just stepping in day one like Matthew Stafford did and asked to take it over, right? I don't think that's the situation that you want to put a rookie quarterback in. But the thing is, if you are going to go for a rebuild, you're going to go with a completely new quarterback. You're going to change the team around a lot, and you move on from Matthew Stafford, and you're going to put him out there, and you're going to do your kind of own thing. Well, that's great, but then you don't really want to have that restart again, right? You don't want to have this be a situation where it's, okay, 4 years it didn't work, we fired him. Because now if you fire them and he was already resetting everything, now the next guys that come in have that rookie quarterback. Who knows if they're going to like him? Now you're in that situation that we see a lot of NFL teams in now, where it's like the next coach comes in, I didn't like that guy, so I'm going to draft another quarterback. And then you got 2 quarterbacks stuck there, and you're trying to figure out who's the starting quarterback. And then you have a team that is built for the last guy that was here, like always happens, and they're trying to retool that while they're also trying to figure out the whole quarterback situation. That's not really where you want to be at, right? So if you're going to have that completely rebuild and it's going to completely be like, all right, we're resetting this, then you really are going to want to have the GM and head coach that you completely trust and that you buy into, because otherwise you're going to have a sticky situation for the next guy after guy after that, whoever that would be, to take over. So these last 5 games are going to mean a lot. They're going to tell a lot. They're going to mean a lot. So we'll see how they go. I know about the social media things with Kelly Stafford. I'm not really going to get into that too much with his kids, so I'm sure they're going to school. Does he want to move them out? Does he want to travel elsewhere? Does he want to get shipped off to another team? Does he even want to play for another team? You know, or is he just saying to himself, you know what? I don't want to play for another team. I want to end my career here. In conclusion, okay, hey, y'all like that in conclusion? You see how I did that? But in conclusion, I think the biggest factor here is whether or not Matthew Stafford wants, to go through this. If it does mean a rebuild, in particular, if he wants to go through, because if he doesn't, you can't just keep him around. You can't hold him through it if he doesn't want to do that. But I do think he wants to retire line. I love Matthew Stafford's line. I hope that he does stay here, and I believe that he wants to be through this. I just don't know if he wants to go through the whole rebuild process, and I don't know if he honestly wants to play elsewhere. I really don't know. Those are all just, speculation or guessing. My prediction, if I had to predict what I think will happen, I do think Matthew Stafford will be here through 2021 at least. I think he will be here next season, and I predict that very heavily based on the fact that I do think he wants to be in Detroit. And number 2, based on what we talked about at the beginning with the numbers and the money, those 2 reasons really in particular, I believe Matthew Stafford will be here at least next season. The future after that, who knows? But I think if I had to predict, he will be here next season. So let me know your predictions. What do you think? What do you think the biggest factors are? Thank you for watching. Are you kidding me right now? I had to put my helmet on for this one. Are you kidding? Look at this. Look at all these members. What? Yo, hey, shout out to all the members, man. Look how many All-Pro members there are. Like, literally, it's the whole screen, dog. This is crazy. The patrons, of course, the Hall of Fame members, man. Y'all got the gold color. It's kind of yellow, but it's supposed to be gold. Shout out to all the members, man. If you want to be a part of this, all you got to do is join the channel. But there are perks that come with it. Stay locked in the community tab if you are a member, because that's where a lot of information comes out. I appreciate all of you. What?